Hello and welcome to my first Power Automate desktop video. This video is going to be for the recommendation to create a test variable if you have a situation where you need to be able to test something in a test environment as well as in a production environment. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come out and I'm going to create a new flow. I'm just going to say test environment variable. Click create. So once the flow loads, first thing we're going to do is set a variable. So you can either search for set variable or click on it and drag it over here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a variable called test environment. And I'm going to change this flag to be yes. So your value here would be either Y for yes or N for no. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an if statement. So I'm going to say here, if my test environment variable equals yes, Y for yes, then I want it to behave in this way. So I'll go ahead and add move files, and I'm going to select the files I want to move. I've created a test file for the use of this flow. So I'm going to say I want to move this sample file from within the Power Automate desktop files folder. So I'll double click this. And then it says, where do I want it to go? So my variable was yes for test environment. So I know that I want it to move to the test environment. So I'm going to select that. If the file exists, you can either do nothing or you can overwrite it. I'm going to go ahead and select do nothing. And I don't need to keep a variable of items that I have moved. So I'll go ahead and remove that. So the other option in my if statement is an else. So if the first argument is not true, do this. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just copy this move file and I'm going to say, okay, now I'm saying if the variable is not Y for test environment, I'm going to move it to a different folder. So my test file will be the same, but I'm going to say now instead of moving it to that test folder, I'm going to move it to the production folder. Same thing. Since I copied it, I'm going to do nothing and no variable. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a display message so we can see when it's done, and we'll say message file was successfully moved. We'll just leave everything as it is, except for we'll uncheck that we don't need a variable. So now this flow is complete. So as a reminder, my test variable is Y. So I'm going to expect that my sample file is going to move to the test folder. So let's go out and look at the folder. You can see it's in this folder here. I'm going to click run. It's telling me the file was successfully moved. So I would expect that it's now in the test folder. So I'm going to go out, double click into test, and you can see my files there. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this file back to this main folder. And then I'm going to come back to my flow and I'm going to assign the test environment variable to N for not test environment, N for no. And then I'll go ahead and run this again. File was successfully moved. So now I would expect if I come over to my production folder, I'll see the file, which I do. If I go into test, you'll see there's no file. So what that allows you to do is just keep your flow a little bit more dynamic. So you don't have to remember where you put a file path or where you put something that you need to behave differently in a test environment versus a production environment. You can simply just change the test environment variable at the top to be yes or no, and then build your flow to consider that wherever you need it to do something different, and it will take care of itself. So as I said, this is my first video, but I will be making more videos on different tips and tricks for Power Automate that I've learned over time. So if you think this might be helpful to you, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Thank you.